Hello everybody. So this video was inspired by Labor Day. I have been out and about traveling across the US and I noticed one common theme, which are these Gen Z brands. These Gen Z brands are very popular and they are clearly taking over that generation. Once you see certain brands being worn, once you see, for example, the On running shoes or you see the Celsius drinks, you just can't unsee the success that these brands are having. And so, of course, these are brands I've covered before on the channel, and I think it's a good idea to check on the valuation today. So this is the updated valuation as of Friday for these companies. And as you can see, Celsius is the cheapest stock. Celsius stock is down something like 60%. So it's the cheapest stock. The most expensive stock in there, of course, and it won't surprise anybody, is Cava. And I'll get to Cava towards the end of this video. So let me briefly begin with a few brief observations. First of all, let's talk about the gross margin. What we can notice about the gross margin is that it's easier to make money on, say, beverages that you can just crank out at a beverage factory like a Celsius. The gross margin is pretty high at 50%. Same for Lululemon. Overpriced pants, overpriced clothing, yoga pants, 58% gross margin. That's very high in the apparel business. And same is for On running shoes. On running shoes at 60% gross margin, and that is because their shoes, I'll get to it in a minute, they're actually pretty expensive. That's the high end, more expensive than your regular Nike shoes. And unfortunately, whenever you operate in the world of brick and mortar, which is another theme of this video, whether it's Dutch Brothers or whether it's Cava, you can see the gross margin in the brick and mortar world are just not as good, 26% and 47%. You're operating in the real world, you're selling a tangible product, you're selling, in both cases, whether it's Dutch Brothers or Cava, you're selling a product that can spoil, right? So if you order too much, you throw it out at the end of the day. These are just businesses which are fundamentally, in my view, not as attractive. But that's just my view. These brands, though, and it's worth saying, is they're taking over popular culture. They are everywhere. Um, and they are expensive brands. They are expensive brands. And of course, it's better to have a business where you sell something expensive because your gross margins are gonna, just go through the roof. And I was thinking about this. I remember being in the U.S. in my early 20s. Like if you take the example of, say, On running shoes, right? Payless shoe stores. Many people just shopped at Payless shoe stores. That's where I shop. That company went bankrupt, by the way, if you haven't heard of it. But nowadays, you see people, 21, 22, they don't have any problem paying 200. Some of them are more than 200. I think you can get some for as low as 180 or 170 for on running shoes. But it's wonderful as investors because you see whenever a brand is putting forward the idea of fitness or the idea of health, people just don't hesitate to spend the money. They have no issue spending $200 on a pair of shoe, which I would never do that even at this stage in life. Like I just couldn't. But they don't have any issue doing that, and that's because these brands put forward, the technical performance of the product. They put forward the importance of health, and as a result of that, Gen Z is a different generation. They are putting forward that health. They want to be healthy. They're less likely to go to McDonald's. They're most likely to go to a store that sells, say, pseudo organic stuff or more edgy things. And sorry for talking like this. Kind of a Labor Day weekend is making me feel this way today. Let me get started. So, which one do I own? So, I own two stocks in there, and it will come to no surprise to my viewers that the two stocks I own are the cheapest stock out of the five presented. So, I own Celsius and I own On running shoes. So, why do I own Celsius? Well, I was owning it when it was more expensive, so I'm actually um, close to break even on the investment. I bought more shares towards the top, right? So, but it's okay because I own these stocks for a very long run. Right now, it's a discount. So right now, I've been adding to Celsius because it's at a discount. The stock is down 60% from its peak a few months back, and that's because people are fearful of a recession coming. That's why the stock is cheap. But in my view, first of all, the adoption of Celsius is not over in the US. They are going after the Coca-Colas of the world. They are going after the coffee world, the coffee market, and they're also going after in the beverage world, even the mixed drinks, the mixed alcoholic beverages. Important to note, I've seen them promote Celsius as some form of an alcohol mixer where you can make a drink with it. The brand is heavily promoted everywhere young people hang out. That's the theme of the video. Wherever you go to the beach, wherever you go to some establishment, maybe more entry level, it's promoted everywhere. And the marketing really is targeted at Gen Z. When you see Celsius marketing, it's fully targeted at Gen Z. It's younger people selling the product. It's associated with quote unquote vibes, and so they have these brands with different vibes. I even saw a store that sold Celsius T-shirts where you can have a Celsius bottle next to it. So again, we're pushing forward the health agenda, which is a selling point for Gen Z, and which is something that you see pushed forward by On Holdings and Lululemon and Cava, and perhaps to a lesser extent Dutch Brothers, but not necessarily that much of a lesser extent. And I think that the recession fears for a stock like Celsius, for example, they're entirely overdone to me. And for two reasons. First of all, the price point of Celsius is too low. It's just too low for people to care because you go to a gas station, 179, 159. You go to Costco, if you buy a big can, you're gonna be at about $1 a can. So that price point for a Celsius can for a beverage, is essentially an enhanced soda. I think it's just too low for people to care that much. And then, I say this all the time, but the product has a lot of caffeine. It's got a lot of caffeine, 200 milligrams. So people come back for that caffeine. And so that's why I wouldn't be so quick like the market to dismiss this company and say that the recession is going to kill their sales. Europe is coming. Europe is coming, and in Europe they have a blue ocean. The energy market in Europe is mostly older beverages, older drinks. This is going to be the hot new drink in my view, and so I'm very happy to own it. The second stock that I own out of these five is On running shoes. So On running shoes, I actually got lucky on that one. I bought it a while back, and I'm up on the stock. So the question of On running shoes is really, is it the Nike killer? Is it the one brand that's going to go after Nike, kind of established, large, slow moving leader? Well, you really have two companies that do that, right? You have Oka, which is Decker Outdoors is the name of the companies and of the company, and then you have On Holding. And when I go around, I see On much more often on what people wear On more often, in my view, at least in the US, at least where I'm at, than Oka. I see it much everywhere. Once you see once you see that logo on those shoes, and they have a peculiar logo to say the least. I mean, their logo, kind of looks discreet, but it's kind of like, oh, you're in. If it's the logo. Kind of like Lululemon. The Lululemon logo is a little bit in the same way. It's this discreet, this shape, these lines. It's just two lines. One circle, one line is the On logo. They really follow these codes, and so you can recognize it from far away. A little bit like the Lululemon logo, which is just this one kind of inverted U, kind of omega line. Once you see it, you can't unsee it, and maybe it's because I look for it because I own the stock, but I try to be as objective as I can, and a lot of people are buying that product. A lot of people are buying that product, and you see it on Twitter too. A lot of people are buying that product, and of course, it's anecdotal evidence, but the numbers on this company look good beyond the anecdotes, beyond just seeing people buy the product. Beyond that, the numbers look good because enterprise value over gross profit or revenue growth there is a 0.33, so that's in my top tier. The rule of 40 is achieved. We're at 47 on the rule of 40, so better than what we consider good for a SaaS company, except you're not with a SaaS company. Remember, there's kind of like a recurring aspect to shoes, to running shoes, because you use them, right? Especially if people run, if people go about their day, they go around, they use the shoes after 12 months, 8 months, maybe 16 months. You're going to replace those shoes, and if you're satisfied with the brand, you're very likely to reuse that brand again. So it's got a longer term recurring revenue built into it, but it's got some recurring revenue. And the strategy just just seems very good for them with a direct-to-consumer play. They are slowly phasing out their old mom-and-pop retailer that helped them get started. They're slowly phasing them out, and they're building only owned stores. We have a very large one in Paris that I was lucky enough to go to about a month ago. I know they have a very large one in London, and a lot of major cities have these wholly owned store where they can actually have that good margin and not give the margin to the third party retailer, to the retailer, right? Nike can't do that. Nike has long standing partnerships with distributors, and you can't undercut your distributor. So that's kind of a classic story right there of business disruption. Kind of the dilemma of the established player is, do you jeopardize that relationship with your distributor in order to go direct? You can't really go do that if you're Nike or if you're L'Oreal, but if you're a new brand, you can do that because really you don't jeopardize a lot of old relationships, or if you do, it's mostly minor relationships that you jeopardize. Moving on to the stocks that I don't own, and I'll briefly conclude this video. So I don't own Lululemon. Reason why I don't own it, I think the growth is too slow, kind of a growth snob. The company is only growing at 12%. Next 12 months sales predicted is only growing at 12%. So that's too slow for me. And I find the company too mature. I'm also going to be humble and say that I may not understand women's clothing as well as I think I do, because if you remember, about a year ago on this channel, I had a thesis on figs, right? I thought figs would really be a big brand. I thought figs was following Lululemon. Figs has been fine, but the stock's been flat. Like the stock hasn't done anything in 2 years, and I just think it's just like a probably a slow growth story, not probably the growth story that I was envisioning. So I understand that I may not be the best to analyze that. So I don't want to be in that sector. I don't want to be in women's clothing. You don't have to be in every sector out there. What about Dutch Brothers? Why don't I own Dutch Brothers? Well, again, this is kind of a superficial reason. I found their coffee to be quite sweet, perhaps too sweet for me, because I'm an espresso drinker. I mostly drink espresso. I have my coffee black, so to me, of course, I think I think a lot of Europeans, would think twice about Dutch Brothers and the coffee that they serve. It's a great sugar delivery system. But it's closer to ice cream to me. But in all seriousness, of course, the problem with me and the Dutch Brothers, for example, it's brick and mortar. It operates a brick and mortar store. You gotta get it built. You gotta get the construction done. Even though it's a drive-through, it's quick to construct. You still have to build it. You have to hire people. It's just a slower growing business because it operates in the world of brick and mortar. And it can't grow as fast as cranking up the speed on a beverage bottling line like Celsius does. Celsius is just a bottling line. You can crank up the speed of the line. The same is somewhat true for clothing. You can just make more clothing, and in one centralized location you can increase the output in a centralized location. Can't really do that when you have distributed store networks. It's tougher to do. It's tougher to grow faster. And for Cava, it's the same reason. Cava is the world of brick and mortar, and it grows slower, which is also why I do not own Cava. And for Cava, unfortunately, there's also another thing I don't like, which is I find it just way too expensive. For some reason, a lot of these brick and mortar food establishments tend to get very expensive. Chipotle is expensive. Cava is expensive. Shake Shack is expensive. These stores are expensive probably because a lot of people understand them, a lot of retail investors, a lot of hedge fund managers can relate to them, and so they tend to bid the prices up. So that's why I don't own Cava. Brick and mortar, I'm less attracted by that, and of course the fact that it's very expensive right now. So this was a quick video. I'm not in my normal setup, and my computer is I'm gonna replace the computer by the end of this next week, hopefully. So when I do that, I'll get back to my longer videos, more prepared videos. But anyways, I'm happy to be back again. And this was not investment advice. This is no financial advice, just entertainment. I hope you were entertained. Please like, please subscribe. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you for watching.